Oops, I think we're live now.
Yes, so we have to start. Okay, sorry.
Do we have to start? Do we start again? It's okay. We've had worse things happen on live TV.
Yes,
Okay,
start
do
again.
have to start again. Okay, well, that was ad-libbed, so I will start again. Everybody, good evening once again, and welcome to this wonderful event organized by Crossword and HarperCollins. We're here today to talk about the book written by Imtiaz Anees, one of India's finest Olympians, the only Indian rider to compete at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. And he was just 30 years old at the time. And in his terrific book, Riding Free, My Olympic Journey, he's described the amazing struggles and successes that it takes to become an Olympian. And we're talking to Imtiaz on the day when India has won two more medals at the Olympic Games, a bronze and a silver. Imtiaz, many congratulations for this book. It's really a terrific, heartwarming book that gives us a real insight into your life and how you trained so hard to reach the games. But first, I thought I'd ask you, your thoughts on how India's doing at the Olympics so far.
Thank you, Nidhi, for having me today on this platform. It's very, very exciting. As being a ex-Olympian, as I would call myself, I'm just don't take my eyes off the TV, and it's just wonderful to have two more medals and especially hockey. It's been 41 years, and like I always say, it's so nice that India, for a change, instead of watching cricket, is watching hockey. So it's our national sport. It's something that we need to get behind, and the boys really played hard against a very tough team. So. Really very, very happy for them. And I just hope that, we still have a few more medal chances. So keeping my fingers crossed that we get to the 2 digits.
I often feel, Imtiaz, that when we look at how our athletes do at the Olympic Games, I mean, aside from cricket that gets a lot of attention and money, that actually they do well despite the difficult circumstances in which they have to train and, often not getting the kind of infrastructural or monetary support that one would hope that they would have got. So do you think that makes these medals even more special?
Absolutely, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Because these people are so hungry for it. I mean, when you hear the stories of the where they've come and how they've trained and how determined they are, and at no cost. I mean, they really sometimes we've had hockey players that didn't even have a hockey stick. Just with a normal stick they were practicing, and they still made it. So for them to be on that podium and actually have a medal around the neck is it's a very, very special feeling, because they know how much sacrifice not only them but their families have made for them to be on that podium.
So let's talk about your book, because you have really sort of very vividly captured your childhood and your sort of love for riding and individually sort of your relationship with each horse that you were riding and training with. Now, you actually began at just the age of 4. How come it happened at such a young age?
So I was very lucky because my grandfather and my mother were very good horse people. They loved horses as well. So they would ride every day. So I was always taken to the riding center at a very, very young age. So I was associated with the horse immediately. And I just had this amazing bond. I mean, I couldn't ride at that time. I wasn't even allowed to sit on them. But I would go into their stables. I would talk to them. I would brush them. And any opportunity I had to spend with them, I would be there. So it was just a bond that I had ever since that age, till I actually got to ride them when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
And tell us about that bond you had with the first horse.
Oh, my first horse. I'll never forget him, Rajesh. That's how the story began, and that's how the whole book actually got together. It was about each horse and then the stories around them, Rajesh was a very, very special horse, because he was a strong, tough, powerful horse. And I was a very timid boy. I wasn't a very strong or a big, muscular and, person. And this horse had thrown everybody in my family off. My father, my grandfather, my mother, my sister, except for me. And I was so little, but we just had this relationship. I think because it was a year before I could actually ride him, and I just spent so much time with him in stable. He thought we were friends, and I definitely thought he was my best friend. But I think he thought so too.
So over the years, as you sort of really developed this love for riding, when did you realize that you would like to compete and you would like to take this dream all the way up to the Olympics?
So, as life goes on, it's about people that come into your lives. And I was very fortunate that at a very young age, only when I was 11 years old, I found the coach and the mentor at the same time. So, we had a lady called Diana Wilson, and her husband was posted in India, and she was an expat. And, one of the top riders, extremely well traveled, extremely well read, someone I really looked up to, when I was 11 years old. And, my parents just looked after her while she was in India, and we became such good friends. And she trained me. And Nidhi, this is quite amazing that from 11 to 30, she took me to the Olympics. So for 20 years, she had the same coach, same mentor, and there was never a hiccup, misunderstanding, nothing. So I was lucky. I was very fortunate that I had such a amazing mentor in my life at such a young age. It was
What
very
was it
special.
like? What was it like, though? I mean, what is the training like? Give us an idea of a day in the life of training, for the Olympics.
So at the
What was
Olympics,
that?
now changing back there, there's a lot because it's the only sport where an animal is involved. So everything you do for yourself, you got to keep in mind of the horse as well. So not only your own nutrition, your own fitness, your own emotional strength. It's the same with the horse. The horse has to be fit. The horse has to be, our sport is a very dangerous sport, 3-day eventing. So it's very difficult because the cross country phase, you're jumping over 4 kilometers at very fast speeds, downhill and fences, and the horse has never seen the course. It's only the rider, so he's going on total trust. So the fitness that's required from horse and rider is to another level. So it's we don't there's not really a single day off. In the morning I used to ride every day. I used to keep myself fit, whether it was swimming or biking. Emotionally fit, you have to keep yourself. Mentally fit, you have to keep yourself. So there's a lot of stress in those factors, and more so because there's an animal involved.
So tell me about the emotional part of it. It's interesting you're talking about that, because this time at the Olympics, and this year in particular, we've seen, you know, athletes, whether it is Naomi Osaka, then Simone Biles, and others, talk about, you know, their mental health and prioritizing that. And I was having a chat with Abhinav Bindra only a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the toll that the pandemic had also taken on the mental health of athletes, and made it even more difficult. So how important, for example, Imtiaz, then does the support of your family become, when
It's
you're
it's
training?
it's
Trying to keep
absolutely,
it all together.
yes, it's the most important thing, and that's what I really want to get out in my book. Even the amount of people that actually supported me. I mean, not only my parents, who were absolutely out of this world. I mean, they were just amazing, extraordinary at that time. Because there were lots of failures. Even when I had my first real failure or didn't get selected for a team, I was crushed and I was shattered. And I would come home, and my parents, the first thing they would ask me is that, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, to represent India." And they said, "Well, then get back in the saddle." There was no options. There was no, "Oh, well, maybe now you've done your best, you've tried, it's bureaucracy, it's politics, let it go, let's try something else." No, those were not options given to me. I never had any negativity. So I think it's really important that families support these children to live their dream with positive energy. You need to surround yourself with positive, especially things like exactly what you're saying with these athletes at the Olympic Games. With the pandemic on, their training has been affected mentally. At this level, Nidhi, everybody's talented. Everybody's done the hard work. Everybody's made sacrifices. So the winners and losers are those who can keep their mind right. So it's a mind game now. So that's why it's really important for them to have as much love, as much care, as much support, just with people that mean something to them. It's not coaches at that time. It's actually mentors, parents, family, extended family. In India, we have that. So we should use that to our advantage.
Of course, riding is seen as a very elite sport in India, or an army sport, if you will. Is that something you see changing? And training abroad, again, I think is also a very big part of it. And is that really the only way to do it right now?
So I definitely think it's changed. 20 years ago when I was competing, I was the only civilian, and all the events were held in army cantonment areas. As my book says, I went from place to place, from Delhi to Jaipur to Jalandhar to even Bihar in a truck, by myself. I don't think my parents even knew that. In those days, they didn't even have cell phones. So again, I mean, can you imagine what parents there were that kind of support? I would reach the place and get that 1 rupee coin and use it in a payphone to check to call them. So things have changed in the last 20 years. Now the events are not held only in the army cantonment area. We have private centers. The shows have been growing in the 2-tier cities, and there are about 500 to 1,000 riders now competing at every show. So it has definitely changed. But coming back to your question about international exposure, our sport is a little difficult because we don't have qualifying events in India. See, most other sports, you can at least qualify in India and then you go overseas for international exposure. You go overseas because you want more coaching. We actually have to go overseas 4 years before the Olympics just to qualify. So it's a lot of sacrifice that you have to make and commitment. So that's what makes it a bit harder for our sport.
So you've spoken a lot about the success and the positivity and the good things that happened, but you've also faced setbacks. And I think that we all learn our best lessons, life lessons from those setbacks. You were supposed to be going to the Asian Games in 1994, I think it was, and you were dropped at the last minute, even though you had qualified. How was that for you? How did you sort of handle that setback at the time?
So as when I was reading my book, I realized that there are more failures and successes actually in the book as well. But it's what to tell people that you still can come out of it. When something like that happened, I was only 19 years old, and as I mentioned it earlier, I was really crushed, and I just thought I'm just going to give it all up. But again, it's just a support team that I had, which just didn't allow me to think that. My parents never gave me that option. Later on in the book, also when I was in Australia training just before my leg for the Olympic Games, I had a horse that broke its leg. At that time, I thought, being Indian, we're quite superstitious about these things. So I thought, oh, it's maybe a sign. Maybe this is not meant for me. I've given it my best shot again. But again, I had like a guide, like an angel come, like the MacArthur family. This is the family, he was a senior senator. He was at the board of the college I went to. And she just made a phone call to me and said, how are you doing? And I told her, because I was so heartbroken, and she said, oh, this cannot happen. And she just came in a car, picked me up, and the next 3 years I lived with her, and she said, no, we're going to get you to the Olympics. So it's amazing the amount of people that came together, and that's what this whole book was about. It's not only about the struggles, it's not only about the resilience, but it's about how the universe does provide if your goal is so true.
So what would you say are the life lessons that you've taken away from your passion, which is riding?
I think the number one life lesson I've learned is work ethic. I think that's the number one key thing. I mean, is to get up, make your bed, and come to work. I mean, you have to show up. Be always punctual, resilient, and humble. And respect everybody. Like even in my book, I will not forget those people. Like I mentioned, even small people, like the Equestrian Federation. There was a gentleman called Mr. Sangwan. Without him, I could not have gone to international events. Or Maqsood at the IMA. He was just a dafidar. He wasn't a soldier. He was an officer. But the amount of effort that he put into me. These things are, these are the little things that matter. So those are the life lessons that matter. That you've got to respect people. You got to work hard and keep as many people around you that have positive energy.
I'm curious, when you were talking about training for the Olympics and how you had to look at your nutrition and the horse's nutrition, what did you guys eat? I mean, give us a sense of what the nutrition is that's involved. And I'm sure you were training, not just through riding, but there must have been very tough training.
Yes, because the cross country part, you've got to be so fit yourself, and you need to be riding at least 5 to 6 horses a day to be good for one in competition. Now I didn't have that many horses, and neither did I have the finances for those horses. So luckily, being very sporty, and I was always very fit, I was very fortunate. So I ran, I swam, and I biked. So I would do those sort of things. It was all about just having a good. There was no junk food involved. You ate healthy. You made sure you had all your greens.
One cheat meal a week.
No, you always had a few cheat meals, maybe at a competition. Because you were so busy running and working that you didn't get a chance to actually get a healthy meal sometimes at an event. But that was your one cheat meal. But otherwise, in Australia, we were lucky because at least you got a good steak, and a lot of families cooked that for me. So I was very fortunate, And same with the horses. Everything was calculated, how much carbs they get, how much proteins they get. Do they have all the vitamins and minerals? Do they have enough electrolytes? Even the alternate therapy, which people don't realize, the acupuncture, the massage therapy, just like athletes get them, we have to give our horses because they have to be top condition as well.
What is that relationship with the horse like? And I'm asking you this. This might be a strange question to people because I love animals too, and I love dogs in particular. So I know how that relationship works. But what is it like with horses? I mean, do they instinctively, recognize people that they're associated with on a day-to-day basis? Are they hostile to strangers? What is that like?
It's a bit of an odd relationship because it's not like a dog. They don't wag their tail and jump on your lap. So people,
Okay.
or like a cat, so they can't. So it's a bit odd. It's just it's that sort of relationship which is just there. It's all a mutual understanding because they can't really express it. But that it's special. The amount of time, and I keep telling riders. I have an equestrian school now that I moved back to India,
Yeah.
and it's all to promote these riders and to explain to them how much time they need to spend at the stable, not only in the ring and riding. Because wherever they go, they just get their riding lesson. But to me, it's more than a riding lesson. Just like I always make a difference between coaching and mentoring. You got to get into their lives. You got to get to know these horses, how much they drink, how much they eat, how much they sleep, whether they like it hot weather, do they like cold weather, do they, everything. You got to live it, breathe it. It's got to be something that it's got to be a way of life, not just for the games or just for your competition, just like everything you do.
So, in fact, you mentioned your equestrian school. You spent what, more than 25 years in the US and in
Yes.
Australia, and then you decided to come back and set up this training center. How is that going? I mean, do you find that there are lots of people who are really keen to sort of train and do this?
Yes, it's been wonderful. I mean, we just started only, due to the pandemic, I decided to come back to India, and we've got a beautiful place. It's only about 3 hours away from Bombay, and it's a live-in. So we have students that can come for a week, they can come for a month, and then we have people who just come for a weekend who don't even know what a horse is, because I want to spread the word, because I think it's just a wonderful sport which teaches them far more than just sport. Like any other sport, like you look at cricket or football or any other sport, once the game is over, you put your gear in a kit bag and it's over. With horses, it isn't. So whether you have a good day or a bad day, whether you win or you lose, or you could even fall off, you still have to come back and look after the horse. So it teaches them a little bit more, builds character, gives them responsibility. It's just a fantastic sport for kids to be involved in.
So I'm going to take a couple of questions from those who
Yes.
sort of logged on. I like this one. Harshil Shah wants to know whether you relate to the movie Seabiscuit.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite movies. There's
Sure.
Seabiscuit, there's Secretariat, and of course, there's a Far Lap. Those are the three lovely movies made on horses. And it's all about that relationship. These horses are so special. When they're out there, they give it all they have. When I'm out there on my cross country course, the horse is, he's my life. I mean, if he crashes, I'm in trouble. So it's all on trust that every step we take together.
Arun has a question about what does the family go through when you are going through this very sort of hard training for the game?
The family goes through a lot, and I really want to I love this question, so thank you so much for answering it, because people put too much stress on, oh, the government is not doing anything, or we don't have enough money, or you don't have enough resources. You never have enough money and you never have enough resources to do whatever you want to do, but that doesn't stop you from doing it. It's the support that you get from your family and friends and people around you that make you achieve and get out of your comfort zone. We have this thing in India where, if it's not educational, if it's not cricket, no, then those are the only two options. But now we're lucky that we've got other occupations. People like to be an artist, or they want to be into the TV or communications, or be a news reporter, or be a journalist, or be a chef, or be whatever they want to be. There's so many other avenues, and you can excel in them. But you need financial support, because that positive energy is important. You cannot come home every day, and so that's one aspect. When you're training at this level, it was very hard on my parents, because some of the times they didn't even know where I was, how long hours. I would come home very late. I would leave very early in the morning. They were scared because some of the venues or the distances to get to the venues. I was still very young when I ventured out. I was only about 16, 17 years old. So it's a lot that it's a trust that they believe, and the relationship that you have with them, that you keep in touch as well, because they're worried. So, I really have to thank my parents, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did.
I think what I find really fascinating also about you, Imtiaz, is that when you read the book, you realize that you had a lot of privilege growing up, and yet you weren't really allowed to live that life of privilege. You did what ordinary folks your age were doing.
Yes.
Or like your college experiences were very interesting to read about, and the
Yes.
car you had to drive, and those kind of things. Is that very important in terms of how it shapes you as a person, that you don't take your privilege for granted in a way?
Absolutely. As I said, that's why the book, I did mention that in the first chapter is a bit, I was blessed. I was a bit privileged. I had everything, but my parents didn't want that for me, because they said I would be one spoiled little boy from Bombay, and they didn't want that. So that's why they sent me to boarding school. It was tough, very tough for them. My parents would be crying nearly every day because they would be missing me. I was crying in boarding school because I hated every day that I was there. But but they stuck with it because they knew that's what's going to make a man out of him. Same with when I came back to college, they could have given me the fancy car and they said, no, it doesn't work that way. You got to work it, you got to earn it. And, now when I look back, it was so important. It's important to be grounded. And I feel when I see kids today at the school, you can see the difference between those who've been given everything on a silver platter and those who have to work for it.
Absolutely. An interesting question here about your mantra for young people. Anybody who wants to live that Olympic dream, what would you advise them? That's again Harshal's question.
I think the number one thing is to get out your comfort zone, train with the best of the best, and don't go for everything that's easy, because it is not easy. Although everybody would be an Olympian, but that's life. In whatever you do, push yourself. It's always they feel, oh, we'll go to this college because it's close to home, or we'll go to this training center because my friend goes to that training center. Those are not the reasons to go to those places. You go to those places because they will push you. When I teach, I tell my students also, I'm not your friend now. We're in the ring and I'm going to push you to get the maximum out of you. Once you get off that horse, it's all forgotten. Then it's a relationship that I have with the person. But I'm not going to be there to think, oh my God, if I'm a bit hard on the student, he may not come back again and I lose that income. That's not the way we think. We think about how am I going to get the best out of the student so that he or she improves. So it's surrounding yourself with good people that push you all the time in anything that you do in life.
So, you mentioned earlier about government support and how you can do so much even if that support isn't there. But if you did have to, Imtiaz had to ask for support from the government or, sports institutions in this country for riding, what would that be? Do you need that support?
Of course, everybody needs it, because the problem in India is that, as I said, all our competitions are abroad. So the government could start a scheme where we can go, and at least riders that reach a certain state can go overseas to qualify. We'll get more riders at the Olympic level. We cannot even qualify in India. So it's a big step for us to take. And that support, as I said before, from the family, friends, people, that you're leaving home. I went to a foreign country. I didn't know anybody there. So it's a big jump that you have to take. So if the government can help in those schemes, yes, of course, it will help. But still, I just feel business houses, the culture has to change. I believe that going down to the playground is not sport. When the kids say, because it's a tick box, even in schools today, there's some schools that, they don't even have a sports program. They just have a playground for 1 hour, and that's what they call sport, or it's an extracurricular activity. No. It's got to be a part of our life, because it actually helps them in everything that they do. They'll be more punctual. They'll be more resilient. They'll be more hardworking. They'll be more dedicated. They will not give up. They learn teamwork, comradeship. I mean, the amount of things that you can learn from sport that will help you in business.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of Fuad Mirza, who is another Indian rider who's qualified for the Tokyo Games this time? How do you look at his
fantastic, and what a performance he had. I mean, a really lovely, again, a young boy. In our sport, he's very young. He's only 29 years, because our sport starts at that age, so he's got many years ahead of him. He rides fantastically. He's got 2 amazing horses, and he's done the right thing. So he did exactly what I did. 4 years, he left India. Again, big sacrifices by his family, and he based himself in Germany. It's not easy, to be in a foreign country, a language that he's not confident in, and really worked very, very hard. He went to the Asian Games, he won medals there as well. And then this whole pandemic really sets you back with horses, because it got delayed by a whole year. So to keep that horse sound, keep the horse ready, and then he gave such an amazing performance. To be in the top 25 is really incredible. So I think it's though it happened 21 years ago, we both finished 23rd at the Olympic Games, so that's quite uncanny. But I just feel that now more people are going to see that and feel that he's done it as early as yesterday. So it's more possible for all of us to do it. So I really hope that we get more.
My final question, Imtiaz, is that when you look at how India is doing in the Olympic Games, look, we are very proud of those who have won medals and and even if they haven't, because there are many of them who have really put up a terrific show despite not winning a medal. But what do you think is holding India back from realizing its full potential in sport? Is it just the government sort of indifference to a lot of non-cricketing sports? Is it something else? What is it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I hate to say that, but I wouldn't put it on the government at all. I think it's our culture as such. It has to start from the grassroots. everywhere. Even I'll be honest, even for when you look at media, everything is hyped up with the Olympic Games 3 weeks before the Olympic Games, and it's a week after, and then it's forgotten and gone back to cricket. We don't carry through. I mean, look at these stories of some of these hockey players and what all they've gone through, from the
Yeah.
women's hockey, men's hockey. These are the sports, and actually those are the sports where we can win medals, or even where there's no strength and stamina, things like fencing, archery, shooting. These sports have really, really grown. So I think it's about that whole culture has to change in the whole country, that these are heroes, even though they don't win medals right now. They've gone through a lot of sacrifice to get there. It's not, it's 4 years of, and their families, the amount of sacrifices that their families have gone through are just tremendous. And that's what,
But
those are the
you're right.
stories
There's
that
no
need to come out.
culture of sport. We're still
Yes.
not, we're not, yeah. And we have to start from there. Imtiaz Anees, it was wonderful to talk to you. Many congratulations. Just holding up the book for everyone to see again. Many congratulations on this. It really is a very, very heartwarming and terrific read and very inspirational. So good luck to you going ahead with your school.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, for this chat. And I really hope people read the book. And I just want to let people know that it's not only equestrian or my Olympic journey. The whole book is about how you can get out of your comfort zone. I came from a little bit of privileged background. There were lots of hardships, like anything in life, but how to overcome them. So it's a bit to tell kids that it's all possible if you dream
Dream big
high.
enough.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Great. Congratulations again, Imtiaz.
No, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Bye.
Bye.